It is time to go over the top 10 modern decks to beat for November 2022. I've been playing a lot of Magic lately, a lot of modern, and I have one thing to say. Omnath is not going to be on this list. You remember Omnath, the big baddie of the entire modern universe? Remember this guy? Remember we need to ban something from Omnath? We gotta ban Omnath or Ren and 6 or one of those random cards, or Solitude or Fury, and it was like filling up all the top 32s of events. Now it's gone. It's like, it's ever since they banned Yorion. Ever since they banned Yorion, it's actually gone. I have no good reason why. It has like a lot of people, including myself, had the opinion that if they ban Yorion, they actually make Omnath better, because now they don't have to make an 80 card deck anymore. And it's not, and if you want to use if you want a companion, go get Kahira. Kahira's good companion. There's nothing wrong with this companion. It also buffs up all of your elementals, like Solitude, Fury, Omnath. You can still pitch it to Solitude. You can do all those things. But they banned the Yorion, and now like barely anyone plays this deck anymore. There's like one user on Magic the Gathering Online consistently winning with this, and like it doesn't show up whatsoever. I'm impressed. If this really was the linchpin to making this deck work, you know, getting all that value, you get, you know, you put all the cards on the battlefield that draw a card, and then all of a sudden you slam your Yorion and you fill your hand back up with cards. I'm really impressed that the banning of Yorion actually kept this whole deck in check. I never would have predicted it whatsoever. As far as I'm concerned, this deck is still tier 1. Maybe it's too expensive for people, but like it's socially not being played right now. That's my perspective. I just cannot believe that it's actually so weakened by the banning of Yorion that it's not seeing any play, or barely any play. Kyle Driver with the super chat. Are you bringing any commander decks to MagicCon, or do I need to get a modern deck to get a game in with you? You got to bring a modern deck. I might bring a commander deck. You know what? I might. It depends on the schedule. Maybe I'll bring a commander deck, but likely I'm going to bring a bunch of competitive decks. Okay, so let's... And then another thing, some more housekeeping. I mean, there's a lot of decks that aren't making this top 10 that I thought would be making this top 10. But anyway, so you can figure out which... I'm not going to spoil anything for you. Why do that? Let us start off. Where's my score? I got it all here. On this notepad. It's the top 10 decks to beat for Modern. Alright, and then, so the number 1... Sorry, not number 1. Ooh, no, let's not skip ahead here. Number 10! Amulet. Now, honestly, this could have been anything. This also could have been, like, Crashing Footfalls, Living End. I honestly don't feel very strongly about this one, but it's got some consistent results. It's, like, putting up, like, one finish in the top 32s of, like, modern challenges and showcase challenges pretty consistently. But I do not feel very strongly about this choice whatsoever. Whenever a permanent enters the battlefield tapped, whatever. You all know what Amulet does. So we've got, who do we got here? House of Mana representing the Amulet. Really nothing big, nothing special. Deck is still pretty stock. One nice thing going for this deck in this economy is that there are a lot of Blood Moons. You see the Blood Moon out of the Murktide. You see the Blood Moon out of Rakdos Scam. You see the Blood Moon out of... Oh, there's one more Blood Moon deck out of all those. Actually, Yogmoth plays like Magus of the Moon, so that they could get Blood Moon. They could get Blood Moon out of the Yogmoth deck too. Oh, Crashing Footfalls also plays Blood Moon. A lot of Blood Moons out there. But thanks to the Dryad of Elysian Grove, you at least still have some game, because once you play the Dryad post... If you can get the Dryad in after they play their Magus of the Moon or Blood Moon, at least you've got all your mana working for you. So Primeval Titan can still work. Eventually go find... Actually, to be honest, I don't know what their plan is after a Blood Moon hits the battlefield. I know you can keep playing Magic. That's all I know. Modern is money piles only. Well, not apparently not. You can play some cheaper stuff out there. Oh, Termus says, I'm looking to get a budget modern deck to get started on the format. Do you have any recommendations? I do. Play Merfolk. You could play Merfolk on a pretty good budget. And right now is the best time to get into Merfolk because the prices of all the cards have crashed. Like Ether Vial. If you look at like all the staples, they go pew, big nosedive. Now's a better time to get into Merfolk. So anyway, you gotta respect Amulet one way or another. It's still playing Urza Saga to go find their amulets and having really big, consistent. Like the deck has more consistency than ever thanks to Urza Saga, because you're going to get that amulet in play within a very good regular basis. Yeah, so Amulet, not feeling super strongly about it being number 10, but I got it at number 10 because I gotta put something. Alright, so for number 9, we've got Creativity. Indomitable Creativity. Red, X. Destroy X target artifacts and or creatures for each permanent destroyed. This way, its controller reveals cards on the top of his or her library until an artifact or creature card is revealed and exiles that card. Those players put the exiled cards onto the battlefield, then shuffle their libraries. This is the next best money pile deck. I mean, basically using everything that they can. We got the Ren and 6 over here. Ren and 6 is a beating in this matchup, because that just guarantees that he just gets fetch lands over and over and over again to go play their Dwarven Mines infinitely. Like, you know, fetch for Dwarven Mine, get a token. Fetch for Dwarven Mine, get a token. And the card that really put this deck over the top, in my opinion, was Fable of the Mirror Breaker, because this is just incredible value. It's faithless looting, and it's a combo piece, and it's ramp, and it does it all. So like for 3 mana you get a 2/2 creature. So anyone that says, you know, all you have to do is like Blood Moon them and it's over, well, it's not over actually, because like even if Dwarven Mine is shut off through some means whatsoever, they still have Fable of the Mirror Breaker, putting a 2/2 creature on the battlefield. Then you get to loot. Chapter 2, you may discard up to 2 cards. If you do, draw that many cards. Yeah, that's got to be respected here. To help you find your combo piece, help you discard cards that are useless in the matchup. Maybe Spell Pierce is completely pointless. Maybe Lightning Bolt is garbage. So dig into the things that you absolutely need. And then Chapter 3, exile this saga, return it to the battlefield, transformed into a 2/2 creature that gets to copy stuff. So you can copy the 2/2 Dork that you just made, or you can start copying your Archons. I mean, probably you win when you combo off and you exile all your stuff and you throw this Archon on the battlefield. But if it's not enough, for one reason or another, you can copy it the moment it enters the battlefield. Wow, we got Wah here. I missed your flavor stream and had a card I wanted to share. When is the next one? Also, Magic Aid's brew is automatically contender for top 10. I don't know what his brew is. I don't know when the next flavor stream is. Sorry about that. Alright, so what else can I say about this particular deck? Oh yeah, Leyline Binding. I think it's a bit gross that these 5-color decks can so easily play this one card. Actually, sorry, not the 5-color decks are fair. The one-color decks or 2-color decks playing Leyline Binding is even worse. All it is like you go fetch up a Triome, which a lot of people are doing anyway, because you could cycle it. And, yeah, throw out Leyline Binding. Whoops. Oopsie doodle. Indomitable Creativity. Now, how to beat this deck? I mean, you could beat it with Grafdigger's Cage. You can, I don't know, just burn their face down before they combo off. You could destroy their creatures in response, which is difficult. So the Indomitable Creativity can hit multiple things at once. Once they hit 5 mana, I mean, it's a beating. I mean, if you can choke them on mana and make them target only one thing, then you could destroy the creature in response and they're not going to get anything. And then you blow out their combo. But it's hard to put that pressure on them because, I mean, that's the whole deal. They're going to control the early stages of the game. They're going to slow the game down to a point where, I mean, they're going to have Indomitable Creativity for a lot. They'll target 3 things at once. They'll target a Dwarven Mine, maybe a second Dwarven Mine, and the stupid 2/2 creature from Fable of the Mirror Breaker. They've got it all. And it's not hard. And then once it hits the and even if once it hits the graveyard, if any of this stuff hits the graveyard through like Fable of the Mirror Breaker, then they can also reanimate it back with Persist. They could do that super early. Catch you off guard. Hushbringer and Priest work well. Again, like they got removal. Like, what do you think this Lightning Bolt is for? Prismark Command can deal 2 damage. Fire and Ice. So, I mean, you gotta basically have the answer and have the answer to their answer to your answer. And that's my answer. Alright? That's my answer. Alright. Moving on to number 8. Urza's Tower. Okay, it's Tron. And it's not just any normal Tron. It's regular Tron, Eldrazi Tron, and Prison Tron. I'm melding them all into one. Thought Creativity exiled. It doesn't come from library. Oh, wait a minute. Hold up. Whoa, wait a minute. You could be I'm so sorry. Let's read. You're right. Indomitable. It's just, I don't know how to spell Indomitable. Creativity. Okay, destroy target artifacts and or creatures for each permanent destroyed this way. Its controller reveals cards on the top of his or her library until an artifact creature is revealed and exiles that card. Okay, yes. Because it exiles, it doesn't actually come from the library. It comes from exile. So Grafdigger's Cage does not work. Does not work. It will still beat the Persist side, but honestly, that's like the crappier side. They're mostly playing... Hold on, what does Transmorgify say? Transmorgify. Transmorgify. Exile target creature. That creature's controller reveals cards on the top of their library until they reveal a creature card it puts onto the battlefield. So Grafdigger's Cage is still worthy of bringing into the deck, but it only hits the Transmorgify and also the Persist side. It won't hit the... What is this? Okay, hold on. It only hits the Transmorgify and the Persist side of the deck. It doesn't hit actual Indomitable Creativity, but you can bring it in. You can bring it. It's not nearly as good. It's not good against specifically this side of the combo, which is they have 4 cards for that, and they got 3 to 4 cards of the other cards. All right, so before we get through with the rest of the top 10, we gotta thank our sponsors. FusionGamingOnline.com, my shop for buying my Magic singles. I need a new deck. I'm gonna get it from Fusion Gaming Online. That's where the first place I'm gonna look for my singles. You can pre-order Brothers War singles and so on. What is the deal of the week this week? Oh, Black Friday sale. Save big on tons of items November 18th to 24th. Got to keep your eye out for those big sales at FusionGamingOnline.com. And don't forget to use coupon code Nikachu to stack on top of those big sales. Get an extra 5% off when you use coupon code Nikachu at checkout. We're also going to thank Mana Traders, the premier place for renting Magic cards online. And if you want to play any of the decks, the top 10 decks on this list, I got them all in the description. You better believe you'll support the channel when you use my Mana Traders links in the description below, or save 10% off your first 2 months using coupon code Nikachu_RUE. Play the best decks, or not all these decks are even the best decks. They're just the decks to beat. It's the people playing these decks. But you know what's popular out there. Alright, back to, Tron? Where is it? Urza's Tower. Okay, so there's a lot of different decks that could be played, off of Urza's Tower. You gotta watch out for regular mono green Tron. We got over here. The Classic! Yeah, it's still around. It was using Urza's Saga for a little while. I think some lists still do play Urza's Saga. I don't see it in this list. But, yeah, I don't know what else to say. This is Tron. Tron, ramping 7 mana into big bad things. Still playable. Still standing the test of time. But this isn't the only type of deck that you can face. You can also face Eldrazi Tron. That is also a really... I want to say they're all big, but, like, all of them combined are seeing a lot of play. And also, Prison Tron. Prison Tron is something you have to look out for. Playing with, like... Can I find a Prison Tron list? Hold on. Prison Tron. I don't know if I can. Oh, here we go. Oh, whoa! There. And this is recent. Excellent. Prison Tron. Maybe not too many people are playing these decks, but they do exist. They are out there. I've come up against enough Tron decks to know that you do have to play this stuff. Eldrazi Tron plays the Saga. A lot of people are trying to experiment with the Saga, not just Eldrazi Tron, you know? Nothing wrong grabbing Expedition Map, and also regular Tron could use. I think regular Tron can also make use of and like those construct tokens, because they put out like a bunch of those tiny little artifacts. Like, look at all these little artifacts. Buff up your little tokens. You know, I'm just saying it's in theory. So like when you're up against the Eldrazi Tron deck, what do you got to look out for? You got to look out for the Walking Ballista, the Spellskite. Of course they play Karn the Great Creator. That's how they win the game. They're gonna lock you out with the Chalice of the Void, the Basilisk Collar, Expedition Map to go find your Tron pieces, Pithing Needle to find off of the Urza Saga. So I mean, if you try to do anything funny, you know, crack your fetch lands before the Urza Saga resolves, because they'll Pithing Needle it. They'll do that. They're nasty. Underworld Cookbook, Sorcerer's Spyglass, 3 Ensnaring Bridge, 4 Serum Powder, and 4 Mystic Forge. The Mystic, that was the card I was trying to think of. The Mystic Forge for card advantage. You can look at the top card of your library. Anytime you may cast artifact spells and colorless spells from the top of your library, and pay 1 mana, exile the top card of your library. It's and like you're playing with the Tron mana, so you can easily just look at the top, your entire deck, and just boom, just spew it onto the battlefield. Hoshino loves Eldrazi Tron. Eldrazi Tron plays the Saga. Spencer Ward says, Tron needs to go away for a few months so I can break out my Siege Rhinos. And you can break out your Siege Rhinos even with the Eldrazi Tron. Don't be scared. Don't let them scare you. Just go get them. Make prototype Tron happen? Well, I mean that's for the Brewers to do. That's for the Brewers. So I'm a little surprised, but I'm not super surprised. There are a lot of Blood Moons out there, but Tron is probably the most resilient deck to Blood Moon. I mean, you're not gonna beat them. You're just gonna slow them. You're just gonna slow them down. They have the 3 forests in the deck, and you may not think that's a lot of forests, but between like Ancient Stirrings and Sylvan Scrying and Expedition Map, like that's all they need. I mean, they can cast Sylvan Scrying off of stuff like Chromatic Sphere, Chromatic Star. Yeah, here, Chromatic Sphere, Chromatic Star. They'll add the green, and then go find the forest so that they can play the rest of their deck. And then eventually, I mean, they don't even need to blow up the Blood Moon. They can just make land drops. I mean, after all, you took a turn off to play the Blood Moon. They can take a turn off to just slowly play out their deck, get the Oblivion Stone out, get up to 5 mana, and then it all goes goodbye. Will Ancestral Recall work in this deck? Why wouldn't it? But it's not legal. I'm actually happy with Angel Tribal. It's surprisingly strong at and modern at my FNM. Well, okay, that is one of the decks you have to beat. But I would not say that I have seen an Angel Tron deck at... sorry, Angel... Oh, did you say Angel Tron? Oh, wait, no, Angel Tribal. I made an Angel Tron deck. It was terrible. I would not recommend. Alright, so that is number 8. Number 8 for one of the decks you have to beat. Now, the number 7. I'm excited to present this! Lord of Atlantis! Merfolk is number 7 for the decks you have to beat. This is the first time I ever mentioned Merfolk on one of these lists. I never did that before. Now, thanks to, well, partially thanks to me and John Patton for making top 8 at MTG or Magic 30 in Las Vegas. A lot of people decided to take this deck more out for a spin, and there was actually more people than ever playing this deck. And there have been, ever since they printed Vodalian Hexcatcher. Ever since they printed Vodalian Hexcatcher, there was a bunch of regular Magic the Gathering Online grinders interested in this archetype, and now we've got a good steady number of people consistently making the top 32 of modern challenges, or even the top 8, because of the list that we're going to see over here. This is actually like a quarterfinals finish with Merfolk. It's a huge, deep finish, and that's not the first time this guy's made top 8 with Merfolk. It's consistently doing it, and there's like millions of 5-0s. It's very hard, actually, to play a league these days and not run into Merfolk. So, what else to say about this deck? I mean, it's got Subtlety, so I mean, if you try to play broken stuff like Amulet, honestly, ever since Subtlety got printed, I don't even care about Amulet. I actually think it's a highly favored matchup. I've not lost to Amulet ever since Subtlety was put in my, ever since I put 4 Subtlety in my 75. This deck has 3 Subtlety. I would play the 4th one. Just had to try a million times and make top 8 twice. That's right. That's exactly how it works. No one using Kira anymore? I don't like Kira, personally, because, like, look at the mana. 4 Mutavault, 4 Cavernous Souls. You have, like, 12 blue sources for your Kira. I mean, you're not going to get it out early. You're probably going to get it out late. I'm not a Kira fan. There's only 1 of in this deck anyway. I think it should be 0 of. Not to say that Kira is necessarily bad. Like, I also think it is a bad card. Like, Renin 6 can pop the shield. I don't think it's too hard to pop the shield on Kira and then blow up the creature afterwards. And then once you kill the Kira, then you Fury the rest of the board away. Alright, what else to say about this deck? Sfealoon is good. Eats up, if the decks that are playing Fury were thinking about trying to eat up all the creatures, well, Sfealoon needs a lot of attention. I mean, you have to put the entire 4 damage on her. And sometimes it's not even going to be possible because she's going to be indestructible. And ideally, she takes over the game after that. Spreading Seas, I think, okay, one thing that makes this deck super competitive is actually the Tide Shaper and the Spreading Seas being able to deal with Urza Saga. Urza Saga from the Hammer Time decks. Urza Saga from, well, some of the Tron decks play Urza Saga. The Prison deck and the Eldrazi Tron deck play Urza Saga. Who else plays Urza Saga? Well, I got my own list over here. Actually, there's not a lot of Urza Saga in this top 10. All right, well, Hammer Time is one of the decks to beat. So, I mean, you do need to... Oh, Breach. Sorry, Breach has Urza Saga in it. Is Hexcatcher a good spec at $3.50? I don't know. I have no idea. Why you want a spec on Hexcatcher? They could reprint that, like, in the next Ixalan set, for all I know. And I would say no. It's nothing special. And only one deck can play it. Merfolk. No one else is playing Hexcatcher except Merfolk. How do you beat this deck? I mean, I guess you try to kill everything. Well, I mean, there's 2 ways of beating Merfolk. The first way of beating it is you just go really fast. If you can, like, combo off really quickly and get underneath the Merfolk deck, if you can, like, put a bunch of hammers on the battlefield and stomp them, then that's one way of doing it. And okay, you know what's one funny thing I find with playing against Hammer Time? And I don't want to coach the Hammer Time players here, but they always get, like, Cauldron Complete. I am not scared of that card at all. Like, I can interact with Cauldron Complete very well with, like, Dismember or Merfolk Trickster or Harbinger of the Tides. Like, the card I'm really scared of is just, like, Colossus Hammer. I'm really scared you're just comboing me out. I mean, maybe some hands you don't have Sigarda's Aid or Pure Steel Paladin to equip the hammer, so whatever. But sometimes they do, and they go get the Cauldron Complete anyway. I'm like, well, that's the slowest clock of all time. And then I can race them easily. They cannot reprint it in Ixalan because of Vodalian Hexcatcher. It's a flavor fail, isn't it? Alright, flavor fail. They could reprint it as, like, some special promo. Or a dual deck. They can do that. Hey, be fearful of the dual decks when you try to speculate. One innovation of the Merfolk deck that is starting to catch on is reducing Silvergill Adepts in the deck. This deck has 2 of them. And the pilot of this deck, Joe Hyun, mentioned that, like, yeah, they didn't need Silvergill Adept anymore. It's just too weak of a card in this economy. Renin 6, Fire and Ice, Fury, and it's such a hassle trying to keep control of, or trying to manage your 1 toughness creatures. Do I play this 1 toughness creature on turn 2 and get blown out? Do I not? Do I hold it back? And if I hold it back and wait for a better spot, like, what's the point of having this card in the deck in the first place? So it's being sort of supplemented by Spreading Seas and some other cards. So, and also another thing is that we are not as vulnerable to Blood Moon as other decks. We play with Aether Vial and a bunch of islands. Although I would say you are even less weak to Blood Moon if you are playing with extra islands. Up to 10, 10 islands is my preference. 9 if you want a little bit. Ju-hyun getting a little greedy with that 8 islands. What else? What other edge does this deck have? I mean, it's got all the counter spells. Bedelian Hexcatcher is like a bunch of counter spells. Force Negation is a bunch of counter spells for free. So actually, this deck finally is interacting with the entire metagame at a really good level. That makes it one of the decks to beat. I have to say, though, if you pick up this deck, the mirror match is an absolute insanity. It's a bunch of BS as far as I'm concerned. El Grande, Silvergill is great in a couple matchups like Scam. I actually don't think it's that good in Scam. But that's it, really. It feels pretty bad having to play it on turn 2 and doing effectively nothing to impact the battlefield. I actually don't think it's good versus Scam because, first off, it's easy to pick off with Fury. Second off, it's hard to attack into anything because of Young Pyromancer. Just one Young Pyromancer, not Young Pyromancer, Seasoned Pyromancer. One Seasoned Pyromancer token just stone blocks Silvergill Adept, so now you need to have a Lord on the battlefield. If you play the Lord and you attack with Silvergill Adept, you gotta like pray that they don't have the removal. So I actually don't think that one card that you draw off of Silvergill Adept is worth it in that matchup. I don't think it's worth it. So first time ever, Merfolk, number 7 for decks to beat in Modern. Next coming up. The music changed perfectly. All right, number 6 is Blue-White Control, or Blue-White X Control. Some of them have like a really, really loose, like it's very, very loosely Blue-White Control. They somehow have like a little bit of a splash for red. They're playing with Leyline Binding, so they play with like more Triumphs than usual. Is Chalice good in the meta? Not really. Not really. I think every deck weak to Chalice is very, very well prepared for it. And also some of the decks that are really weak to Chalice got wiped out. There's no Crashing Footfalls or Living End on this top 10 list. I don't even know what happened to those decks. I've not seen them in a very long time. Okay, well, let's look at a Blue-White Control list. Blue-White Control is now controlling the metagame. This is called Jeskai Control. Oh, why is it called Jeskai Control? Oh, because of Flame Blitz and Crumble to Dust in the sideboard that they're going to play it off of the Ketria Triome. Yeah, right. Oh, sorry, not Ketria Triome. And do they not have the Jeskai one? They have to have the Jeskai one. How is there no Jeskai Triome? I must just be being stupid and I can't see it or something. Whatever. Moving on. The deck. I actually can't tell you why this deck is well positioned right now. People have been jamming Blue-White Control for quite a while, and just recently Wafotapa and a bunch of other people are showing success with this control deck. And honestly, I don't think there's anything changed. I mean, maybe the addition of Leyline Binding helps. It's like it's like everything that they wanted March of Otherworldly Light, but March of Otherworldly Light is a little bit too clunky. That's why they're playing things like Rafine's Tower and Ketria Triumph to reduce the cost on Leyline Binding. So that's pretty good. But like prior versions, we're playing with Fourth Chalice of the Void in the main deck and just not picking up a whole lot of steam. Something's going for it is that Teferi Time Traveler is very well positioned versus like Living End and Cascade, but those are in the downtrend right now. Is the new Teferi seeing play? No, nothing. I haven't seen anything. Jeskai Triome doesn't help them get domain. It doesn't? Why not? Because they don't. Well, I mean, they've got, what's it called? They got Steam Vents here. That could have been a Jeskai Triome. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I get it. Because if it's a white source, you already have the white source. But the white source could be the... Okay, I see. It's not that big of a deal. You rather have the Ketria Triumph because it has green in it. I got it. I got it. This list isn't running Rogren. It has Steam Vents. This configure works better for domain. Oh, you guys are just talking amongst each other. Okay, Solitude. Like, Solitude can't even beat Scam, right? So, like, if someone plays like Grief, I mean, okay, after the Grief hits the battlefield and you top deck Solitude, it's good. but when the grief hits the battlefield, they're going to first look at your hand, and then if you try to Solitude the grief, they can, in response... Oh, they can't do anything! This is great versus grief, because they'll play, like, Undying Evil in response, but that just does nothing. So you can Solitude a grief in response if they go for a big turn on turn 1. They'll still eat up your hand by a bit. You lose 3 cards, but they don't have any grief on the battlefield. And they lost 2 cards. So you lose 3, they lose 2, but they lose tempo. Okay, so you actually... I didn't think about that. I was, like, wondering, what edge does this thing have versus Scam? Actually, Solitude is very well positioned versus Scam. Or good enough, I should say. And you'd rather have the stupid guy off the battlefield. Not to mention, you know, all the other stuff still hits it. It's one of the decks that can still play a companion. You got the companion, Kahira, so very later on in the game, you can just scoop this up into your hand and then play Solitude for nothing if you need to, because effectively you just exile your Kahira, which you didn't really need in the first place. Tommy Sitton says, I came late, but I'm glad you went back to Modern Top 10 as a stream. Well, I never did it as a stream. It was always a standalone video, but yeah, well, we're bringing it a stream. Oh, I've missed this comment. Merfolk has come a long ways. Best tribal deck in Modern. Yes! Stand strong, tribe, my fish fam. Stand strong. Extra copies of other cards and decks or something that supports main. Huh? What are you talking about? Oh, you guys are talking amongst each other. Okay, another thing, Dress Down helps this deck a lot to interact with Urza Saga decks. So if they play Urza Saga and they try to make a bunch of construct tokens, you blow them all up with the Dress Down. If you try to play, like, you know, Murktide in response, you Dress Down. It doesn't come into play with any counters on it. Very easy, manageable 3/3 creature. You got a problem with the Dragon Rage Channeler, you Dress Down again. Now it's a 1/1. You can easily block that stupid idiot. And you can block it with your Shark Typhoon over here. Shark Typhoon, as you get later and later into the game, make those land drops, you just cycle and make a gigantic flying shark. Was this card based off of the movie? The Shark movie? With the Sharknado? Sharknado, that's right. I think it was based off of that. One other interesting thing is when March of Otherworldly Light came out, it like replaced Prismatic Ending in these decks, and now they went back to Prismatic Ending, and now they replaced March of Otherworldly Light with Leyline Binding. But anyway, this is a cheesy Leyline Binding deck, in my opinion. Very cheesy. I mean, you're a blue-white, you're basically a 2-color deck. Basically. Oh! They have this hot card in the sideboard. Where is it? It's not Blossoming Calm. Where is it? It's gotta be this list. Did they have it? Oh, it was in the main deck! Check this card out. Hollowed Moonlight, 1 white, 1 generic. Until end of turn, if a creature would enter the battlefield and it wasn't cast, exile it instead. And it's not even non-token a creature. So, like, it can hit, it hits everything in Yogmoth, basically. So, like, you know, if you try to tutor for, like, anyway, if you're tutoring for creatures, you're basically going to lose those creatures. I guess in response, they could go get Grist. Grist is still something they could get, because if it enters the battlefield, it's going to be a Planeswalker. But outside of that, you nail all the other pieces of your Yawgmoth. And if they can't get, if they're like Court of Calling for 1 or 2, then you're really going to nail them with this. What else does it hit? It hits, I think it hits Urza Saga. Make a construct token. Note, you make nothing. You're going to make nothing, because it's a creature that you didn't cast. Anything that comes out of Scam. So if you try to reanimate something, or... yeah, if something gets reanimated, you Hollow Moonlight, it doesn't come back. What else? It hits Creativity. Amazing main deck card versus Creativity. So you try to, like, you know, exile all you're trying to destroy your creatures and then put a creature onto the battlefield. And it doesn't get cast. Hold on. Wait. This Indomitable Creativity. Cast it. Exiles those cards. Those players put the exile cards onto the battlefield. Yeah, it hits Creativity. Okay, it hits Creativity. Just in case it might say cast from exile, because sometimes they do that stuff. Sometimes they're tricky with the wording here. It hits Company, but Company is a dead card in Modern. I don't know what year you're from, but oh yeah, it hits Living End hard. Big time. Oh, and it also hits the Footfalls. This card is amazing. Surprised there's only one of in this deck. It's not more in this. Oh no, there. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I was blind. There's like 2 more here in the sideboard. Insane card. Just absolutely insane card. Creature would enter the battlefield. I guess you could say this. No, you can't say the same about Cauldron Complete. No, the Cauldron Complete enters the battlefield and then... Oh no, but if a creature would enter the battlefield... Oh, the creature... No, the creature still gets exiled too. Yeah, so then they make the germ token, but then the token gets checked. Oh, I'm not supposed to exist, so... What is Scam? Rakdos Scam. The Rakdos mid-range deck. Playing with Fury and like the Undying Evil stuff. Anyway, Blood Control, get your uncountable creatures ready, because that's gonna be the best way to deal with this deck. Control is making a huge comeback. A lot of people playing it. It's going deep in tournaments. I just won one like a day ago. This is fresh off the presses. Waffle Toppa with Control. So I have Control. Blood Control is number 6. Is one of the decks to beat in Modern. Oh my god, I'm running late here. All right, what is number 5? Well, this is not smooth, but Yogmoth. The Yogmoth deck. Yogmoth, Thran Physician, black, 2 generic. For a 2/4 human cleric. Protection from humans, pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature, and draw a card. And then it's got this extra ability, black, discard a card, proliferate. I honestly forget that ability exists, because usually I can lose without it. I don't need to see that. I mean, I can very easily lose a game to Yogmoth. All right, we got Steven Yean's 6-2 finish at SCG. What is this? SCG Con Philadelphia. I mean, the whole point of this deck is you get this thing out, and then you sack creatures that are going to come back, like Strangleroot Geist, which has Undying, which puts a +1/+1 counter on it, and then you got to put like a -1/-1 counter on something. Okay, that's fine. You then put the idea is, let's say you have 2 Strangleroot Geists out. You sack 1, and then you put a -1, or you can't put the -1/-1 counter on the other one. Okay, you gotta... One already needs to have a +1/+1 counter, and one needs to be fresh. The one with the +1/+1 counter on it, you put the -1/-1 counter on it. And then you sack the other one. This deck is... I don't even know why this deck is doing so well. I mean, it is a very consistent combo deck. It's super consistent. You can get Yogmoth out in a million different ways, between just hard casting Yogmoth, Corda Calling, Eldritch Evolution. The random dorks can sometimes win the game. It's resistant to removal. It's very good versus... Okay, it has a great edge versus Murktide. Against the Murktide deck, they're like, we don't effing care about Murktide, because Young Wolf on turn 1 can eat up your Murktide for days. Just 1/1, for 1 mana, Undying creature. So if you bolt it, it comes back as a 2/2. And so you basically have to use another piece of removal. So it stone blocks Ragavan. So, Scam decks hate it. The Murktide decks hate it. Breach hates it. Any Ragavan deck is going to hate Young Wolf. And then they're going to extra hate Strangleroot Geist. So any decks with removal, it's hard to get rid of all these things. They'll endure. And hey, you know, I've been hit with endurance in really weird ways, where they like... I think that they cannot Corda Calling for Yogg at end of turn, but then they all of a sudden flash in endurance. And then the evoke trigger is on the stack, and they have that 1 extra creature in play to tap down with Corda Calling to go find Yogg and then kill me. Thought that was just crazy. Yogmoth is very good at protecting itself from a board wipe and replenishing the hand at instant speed. It's slow for combo, but impressively resilient. Well, if Yogmoth hits the battlefield at all, they're going to draw a bunch of cards, generally speaking. Like, they can just refill their hand and then play the game all over again from scratch. So it works out quite well. Question about Modern, if someone can help. Do reprints of a card in a secret lair make it legal? Yup. So long as it was originally printed in Modern. That's exactly how it works. So Yogg, I don't know what else to say. Okay, what other angles that it has? Oh yeah, it's that Magus of the Moon angle that I was talking about earlier. So, I mean, I think people suspect it now. It's not going to be a surprise. But I'm sure, like, in the earlier days, this hit people so hard. I'm sure there's still a lot of situations where they just, like, turn... I don't know, turn 1... Can you turn 2 Magus search for it? Is that possible? Probably not. I'm trying to think how we can get Eldritch Evolution off on turn 2 and get... Additional cost, sack your creature. Search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less, where X is 2 plus the sacrifice creatures. Oh yeah, you can. Yeah, you could go Dryad, Birds of Paradise turn 1, turn 2, sack your Birds of Paradise, go get Magus of the Moon. GG. Good game! Thanks for coming out. Nice, good one. So anyway, that's a nice, easy way to cheese out a lot of decks weak to Magus of the Moon. Which could be a lot of decks. What other angles does this deck have right now? Just it's resistant to removal. It can refill its hand with Yogmoth even if you kill it, and then it can combo kill you. So that's the genius of the Yogmoth deck, and a lot of people are playing it right now. So I got it as the 5th most popular deck that you have to beat in Modern. All right, going on to number 4 is the Grinding Station Breach deck. This deck has received a lot of hype, and honestly, I cannot say what is good about this deck. This deck doesn't make any sense to me at all. I have no idea why this deck is doing so well, or why it's even so popular in the first place. Like, I get it. I understand what this deck does. Like, I understand that much, but I don't know why. Hold on, what is this? Yeah, this is number 4. Getting confused here. Whoops! Grinding Station. No, this is not Grinding Station. Where's Grinding Station? No, oh yeah, this is it. Okay, just got Breach. So the whole idea, okay, I mean, it's a convoluted combo. You first need Grinding Station out. Pay 2, tap, sack an artifact. Target player puts the top 3 cards of his or her library into the graveyard. And then whenever an artifact comes into play, you may untap the Grinding Station. Well, that's very convenient that 3 cards go from your graveyard into your library, because when we play Underworld Breach... Can we get a sound effect for Underworld Breach? This one. This is a good one. Each non-land card in your graveyard has escape, and the escape cost is equal to the card's mana cost plus exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. So you have to keep exiling cards from you have to exile 3 cards for your graveyard, but then you can just get 3 more cards with Grinding Station. The idea is you want to loop like 0 mana cards over and over and over again, particularly Mox Amber. Mox Amber, you can bring this back from your graveyard to the battlefield. And if you have 2 Mox Ambers, you can just loop them. So you play Mox Amber, tap to add a mana. Need a legendary creature on the battlefield, though. You need, like, Emery or Ragavan, or otherwise it's not going to tap for nothing. And, sacrifice it to the... Oh, wait. Hold on. Mox Amber. How are we drawing cards off of... No, you just exile. You just keep putting cards into the graveyard. That's right. Mox Amber, Grinding Station. Keep milling stuff. And ideally, you want to mill into, like, what's it called? Emery? So not Emery. Thassa's Oracle at some point. Mill out your entire deck by keep playing Mox Ambers. Play Mox Amber, tap, float it for mana. Then play another Mox Amber from the graveyard, enters the battlefield, untaps your Grinding Station. I'm so sorry if I'm in a very convoluted way explaining this combo. So, Mox Amber comes into the battlefield, untaps Grinding Station, tap Grinding Station, sack your Mox Amber, bring the other Mox Amber back. I mean, also you could just do this with Mox Amber and another 0 mana artifact. Mishra's Bauble will work, because it'll come and play for free. And you can untap the Grinding Station. They'll go get the Mox Amber. So you loop like 2 0 mana cards. But the thing is, okay, you need 2 0 mana cards. You need the Grinding Station. You need a legendary creature in play. Like, you need a lot of stuff to make this thing work. I need to get the deck that puts out anti-tire strips for the race. Oh god. Like, this deck is just, like, a bit weird to me. I mean, I guess it has Teferi Time Raveler to help it versus Cascade decks. I don't know what it's resilient to, because if you just blow up any parts of these cards, or you counter the Underworld Breach, it does nothing. I'm not really one to say what's so strong about this deck, because apparently it's got a bad matchup versus Merfolk, and I have lost a single time to this deck out of, like, 20 matches. I mean, it's got Urza Saga, that's nice. So, I mean, that can be a win condition by itself. Sometimes you can just win with Urza Saga. And I guess at least in this variation, you can win with Ledger Shredder, so you don't need the combo plan. It sort of has like a blue-red Murktide-esque type of feel to it. where you play out some of these early creatures and try to snowball with your Galvanic Blast, your Unholy Heats, your Expressive Iterations. So, I mean, it's got that line of playing going for it. I mean, Emery does have, like, a bit of a long game, but Emery can just die. Like, Emery can loop Mishra's Bauble. I think that's a bit dirtily in this metagame right now, though. But you know what? We're not here to talk about the strongest decks in Modern. We're here to just talk about the decks to beat. And Breach has a bunch of momentum behind it. I would be prepared for this Breach deck. But what is their plan if you just kill their creatures? Do they do anything? Does this deck do anything? Oh, I mean, I guess they bring them back with Underworld Breach, and if you can't interact with them... okay, so you kill their creatures, you exile their graveyard. What do? The Expressive Iteration was banned, only in Pioneer. In Modern... Modern's more, chaotic than you would think. Hold on, is this banned in Pioneer, or am I thinking Legacy? Where is it banned? Oh, it's banned in just Pioneer. Yeah, just banned in Pioneer. People are calling for its banning in Legacy. And it seems to be quite fair overall in Modern. Very fair in Modern. Be ready for Breach around. Oh, God. It's basically Murktide, but as a combo finish. That's how I would describe it. It's basically Murktide, but as a combo finish. And no Murktide. Maybe it should play Murktide. It's got Grinding Station to, like, help fill up their graveyard. So anyway, yeah, the Grinding Station deck. I put this as the number 4 deck that you have to beat in the Modern metagame. Alright, moving on to number 3. Whoops. We got Hammer Time. This deck has, like, floated between playability. I mean, sometimes it's being played a lot, sometimes it's not being played a lot. It's back to being played a lot. A lot of people are playing with the Hammer deck. It is the premier, like, basically combo aggro deck of Modern. If you want to play something super fast, you want to get underneath your opponent before they even start playing creatures, I mean, you want to play the Hammer deck. It's consistent. It's got it has many angles of attack. You can play with Stoneforge Mystic and play a Fairway with Cauldron Complete. If they're wiping out your board, you can play Urza Saga. Let's go get a Hammer Time deck from Happy Sandwich. Happy Sandwich was happy winning with Hammer Time. So there's so many ways you can win with this deck, and it's so consistent. You got the Stoneforge Mystic, which can go find your combo pieces like Colossus Hammer, but also can help find Cauldron Complete. And then every so often, if they blow up all your creatures, well, then you can just win the game with Urza Saga tokens. Play Urza Saga, tap, make a bunch of artifacts, go get your Shadow Spear, equip it to one of your tokens, and, like, go beat down that way. If they ate up all the creatures, you can go play an Nettle Cyst, which you can also find off of, like, the Stoneforge Mystic. The deck has really good protection to its combo because of Blacksmith skill, which it says target permanent, gains indestructible until end of turn. If it's an artifact creature, it gets +2/+2. Permanent! So, like, not only does it protect the creatures, it protects your combo pieces like Colossus Hammer. And, like, it still has the turn 2 wins. You go turn 1, Ornithopter for 0, followed up by Sigarda's Aid, which is the enchantment. You can play your auras and equipments as though they had flash. Turn 2. Play 2 hammers, they're dead. And even if this isn't technically... Let's say you have 1 hammer, that's usually enough. So you equip hammer to Ornithopter and attack on turn 2 for 10. I mean, most people are still going to lose to that. It's just ridiculous. Michael loves Blacksmith skill. I hate it. I hate this card. I don't like it. Trying to kill a creature and it's indestructible. And hexproof, both at the same time. That's a Modern Horizons card. But honestly, this is what they got to do to push these 1-mana protection spells to put that in a tier Modern deck. Ibrahim's like, Hammer Time. It's time to hammer them with Hammer Time. Now what's the blue for? Basically Spell Pierce. I actually don't know what they use this for. I'm assuming to protect their combo, but also to have a little bit of interaction versus the other combo decks. Like, it's very, especially for a deck like this that's going to be so fast, you put a lot of pressure on other combo decks like Living End, for example, to combo off as quickly as possible, and the fastest they can do it is on turn 3. So Spell Pierce, super powerful in a deck like this. That's why they got the extra one here in the sideboard. They also have Lavinia and Mana Leak, so I mean they're combining a little bit of counter magic with their own combo to obliterate the opponents. Because, like, if you're, like, they know, like, if you're a Living End deck or a Creativity deck, you might end up wanting to try to, like, if you try to combo off as quickly as possible to race them, well, they've got the Spell Pierce, so screw that. It's not going to happen. What else to say about this deck? I mean, Giver of Runes is a real pain, because if they go turn 1 Giver of Runes, well, now you got to use your removal on the Giver of Runes, because, I mean, you can't save it for anything else. Oh, Esper Sentinel is also a pain. There's so many spells in this world. So it'll make some cards really clunky. It's going to make removal clunky. You're going to at least, I mean, either you're going to waste 2 mana trying to kill their Esper Sentinel on your turn, or you're going to let them draw a bunch of cards. And you don't want that to happen. So the deck has a lot of free wins, resilient to removal, a lot of different angles to attack, protection against your spells, but also other threats in the metagame. They can exile stuff with, like, March of Otherworldly Light. They got it all. Hammer Time is, I think, the number 3 deck you have to beat in Modern. Alright. Going on to number 2. Murktide! Murktide actually is not doing all that well, to be honest. It is not it's not putting up a whole lot of finishes, but people are still jamming the crap out of this deck. So, let's go look at a Murktide list. So, Murktide by Zerk. Like, tons of people still believe in the blue-red stuff, and it still has some finishes, but it's not really that good. You're still going to see this in leagues and open modern events. You do have to be, what's it called? So you have to be prepared for this thing, but its win rate is not there, I guess. It's not standing the heat of the top decks, but still, there's just tons of people jamming this deck. I would say it's probably on its way trending down. Like, you know, 2 weeks ago, I would have said that this was the number 1 deck you have to beat, but I think a lot of people have their sights set out to beat the Murktide deck, so maybe everyone collectively combined is actually pushing this deck's win rate down. Remember when decks had creative names instead of being named after one of these cards? I miss that. What, you mean like Tricks? You mean like Cocoa Pebbles? Full English Breakfast? To anyone that doesn't know what I'm talking about, those are actually like names of, you know, Magic decks. Chad be like, alright, Nikachu, now put a homebrew pet deck in the list somewhere. Hey, I put my Merfolk deck in here. Okay, what to say? You know, it was funny. Ledger. I wonder, does Ledger Shredder even help this deck? Everyone loves Ledger Shredder. I've heard some fight against Ledger Shredder. Ever since Ledger Shredder got put in this deck, I can't say, like, the results for this deck have been better. Like, everyone loves Ledger Shredder, but is this even really, like, the deck for Ledger Shredder? I mean, it dodges Lightning Bolt in the mirror, and that's about it. But, like, okay, well, whatever. People play Ledger Shredder. They love their Ledger Shredders. Dragon Rage Chandler. I mean, I hate Dragon Rage Chandler as they play more spells. Like, if I don't have removals for Dragon Rage Chandler, my opponent will 100% draw everything that they need to draw. They're just sifting through their deck like crazy. And Ragavan does give you still free wins. Any Ragavan deck is a free win deck, because if you're on the play with Ragavan, and you play Ragavan turn 1, your opponent doesn't have any answer for it, you've probably won the game. You're just going to have this outrageous mana advantage that your opponent can't get back from. And you probably are, and they're probably stealing your cards off the top of your library. And given the fact that a lot of decks in Modern right now are playing red, it's very easy to steal the opponent's cards. Murktide Regent. I don't even know if Murktide Regent is even all that good right now. I guess it dodges Unholy Heat, but I mean, there's like still Leyline Binding. That's a huge beating for this card, actually. Leyline Binding, which a lot of different decks can take advantage of. And you know, the amount of prismatic ending in the metagame has gone down. I'm like giving you a lot of reasons not to play Murktide, but I'm just saying, like, you know, the stats for this deck, the win percentage, it seems to be going down as the metagame is adapting, as it is adjusting. So we see more Leyline Binding, we see less prismatic ending in the metagame. Oh, here's a bunch of old classic names. Fruity Pebbles, Cheerios, Eggs. Yeah, Merfolk, the higher A tier deck now. Haven't seen Tarmo yet. No, well, yeah, you're gonna have to keep waiting for that Tarmogoyf. You're probably not gonna see it this time. Not playing Blood Moon in the main in Murktide is missing out several free wins. Well, I mean, that depends. Depends on the matchup. And also, it depends on the deck. This list is not playing Blood Moon in the main, but there are a lot of Murktide decks that play Blood Moon in the main. There's a lot of them. So, that they play like they play it as a 1-of or something. So if you want to, go play Blood Moon in the main. It's not a bad idea. Consider Lightning Bolt, Spell Pierce, Unholy Heat, Counterspell, Expressive Iteration, Archmage's Charm. It looks like this deck has everything. And it's still being played super a ton. Everyone loves their Murktide. No one wants to drop this deck. It's for every player that loved Blue-Red Delver, they loved Blue-Red Phoenix. You know, if you're an Izzet fan for life, you're playing this deck. And there's like that Izzet tribe out there, that community. They will not stop playing Lightning Bolt and blue cantrips. And they'd be damned if they drop this deck. And they are high enough numbers in the modern metagame to make Murktide the second most common deck that you have to beat in modern. All right, now it's number 1. The number 1 deck you have to beat. The card's not going to show up. Oh, no, it did show up. Not bad. Rakdos Scam. Now, I can't express how much you have to prepare for this deck now. In the latest Showcase Challenge, it put up, like, I want to say, like, 30% of the top 32 is Rakdos Scam decks. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but it was a ton. It was just it was so many decks. This thing has to be arrested. And I don't even know exactly how you're supposed to beat this thing. I don't know. Solitude? Is that like its weakness? Let's go look at a Rakdos mid-range deck. It's got basically the best of all the worlds while getting a bunch of cheatsy free wins. So it's got the Ragavan on the play. Ragavan on the play is going to devastate you. On turn 1, its best play is like playing Grief. Enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. And then with the Evoke on the stack, they'll play one of either Feign Death, Malakir Rebirth, Undying Evil, Undying Malice, which all basically do the same thing, which is, well, Malakir Rebirth is a little bit different, but it's a land. Feign Death is, until end of turn, target creature gains. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it. So, like, Grief gets even bigger. Becomes a 4/3, and you get another card out of your opponent's hand. And you can stack the triggers in such a way that first, you play the Grief, you look at your opponent's hand. Why is it called Scam? Because it scams you. They play that Grief on turn 1, and they make you feel helpless. They first look at your hand. They'll take your best card or anything you can interact with Grief. Then they'll, with the Evoke trigger on the stack, make it give it Undying, and then it comes back, and then it smacks you for 4. They, like, after they've ripped 2 cards out of your hand, you're probably like 2 cards behind. You might no longer have anything to deal with the Grief anymore, and have nothing to play on curve. So they just, like, basically storm you. And you might think, oh, this is a bit of an all-in strategy, and I used to think that myself. And they can do the same thing, by the way, with Fury. So, like, if you build up any board presence, then they evoke Fury, deal 4 damage to everything. Then they Feign Death, bring the Fury back, deal another 4 damage to everything. And it's a 4/4 creature with double strike. You can get so crushed. It's soul crushing when they Fury your board away. Anything you tried to build up something to race the stupid Grief that they already played, and then they play this Fury, and then, you know, basically crush any hopes and dreams. And you might think, well, that's exhausting a lot of their resources, but they're playing with the Seasoned Pyromancer. So as they're empty-handed, then they play this for 3 mana, and they draw more cards. It's got a lot of grind to it, and also all those cards in the graveyard help fuel the Kroxa, and then they could escape it back. Dothy Voidwalker. Incredible main deck card, because remember the ability on it. If a card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, instead exile it with a void counter on it. So it's an amazing main deck hate card. in the mirror, but also for just like random graveyard decks like Living End. What else? If somehow cards went to the graveyard through creativity, they'd get exiled. So Great versus Murktide. So it interacts with Murktide, interacts with Yogmoth, interacts with Breach pretty well. Interacts with Murktide. So they have to kill this thing, otherwise they can't fill up their graveyard for it to actually cast Murktide. Really good in the mirror, and also really good in any deck that uses the graveyard. Everyone uses the graveyard. And of course, it's still got playing the best removal, like Lightning Bolt. Still playing with, like, Thoughtseize to interact with your opponent. Oh, by the way, they can turn 2 Blood Moon you. Yeah, turn 1 Ragavan, smack you, ramp out Blood Moon on turn 2. So they're also a Blood Moon deck to beat all the other decks that are weak to Blood Moon. Yeah, you get Grief on turn 1, or turn 1 Ragavan or Blood Moon, or repeat Spyro draws that usually chain into each other. Each win feels like a scam. You feel like you got scammed. That's exactly what it is. You feel you got scammed. Yeah, you can ruin Yogmoth. Your cards go to the graveyard and they stay in the graveyard. Actually, they don't stay in the graveyard. They get exiled. And then they could play it if they want to. They can play your cards. You could play a good card, they destroy it, and then they sack the Dauthi Voidwalker and then play the damn thing. That's their card. Gotta out-scam the scammer. Well, I mean, that's the deal. You gotta play your own scam deck. So, what is this deck weak to? I have no idea. I really don't know what the angle of attack is. And basically, this deck has now flooded the metagame. And I guess this is one reason why maybe, like, Wrenn and 6 decks are not as good. Like, if you you know, I think one thing that Wrenn and 6 decks had for it is that if they mulligan to a sketchy 5-card hand, they could always keep 2 lands and a Wrenn and 6, and that would always, you know, carry them to victory. But they can't do that anymore. They can't depend on Wrenn and 6 because it'll get griefed away. It gets griefed away from their hand. And also, Grief just deals with any elementals for the most part. They will take out... It will be still a 3-for-1 if you have, like, Solitude. So you play Grief, you look at their hand. In response, they can Solitude the Grief, and then Undying Evil. This stuff doesn't work because the creature won't die. It will just get exiled. It's not like if the creature leaves the battlefield. It's if it goes to the graveyard, it gets Undying. So you 3-for-1 the Solitude decks. No, it's a fantastic deck. It's super outrageously powerful. It's resilient to hate. It's got all the answers. It's got everything. So this is the #1 deck you have to beat in Modern. Is the Rakdos scam deck. It's going to be flooding the metagame. I have no advice how to beat it. Nothing. I got nothing. Enchantments, black and red, are bad at destroying it. What enchantment are you going to use? Are you going to want to use Rest in Peace? They still hardcast a lot of creatures. They'll get the Grief out before you get the Rest in Peace. I imagine in the long run, Rest in Peace is good, but in the short run, by the way, they can just build a board of stuff. Like they can just play off the top of their deck. They can hardcast Grief if they want. They'll play the Seasoned Pyromans. I've lost to, like, Dauthi Voidwalker into Dauthi Voidwalker. This might as well be True Name Nemesis. It's got Shadow. You can't block the damn thing. That's a clock you can't block. This deck locks you turn 1, basically. Sort of. It'll slow you down significantly. Alright, that's it. That's the top 10 decks to beat. If you want to play any of these decks, I have lists to all the deck lists featured in this show in the description below. All the deck lists are over there. Do you like the top 10 decks to beat coming back? Let me know, and then maybe we'll do this again. Honestly, the only reason I did this is I'm playing a lot of Modern recently, so I feel like I'm in tune with the Modern metagame. I know what's out there. I know what's happening. I didn't know what was going on for the last year, so I didn't really have a good opinion on it. And, like, the MTG Goldfish data is garbage. It's complete swamped crap. So, nobody listened to MTG Goldfish. They don't. Sorry, like, the metagame. Like, it's trying to represent the metagame, but not what the good decks are. That's what I would say, necessarily. It's got, like, tons of, like, X and 5. Sorry, like, 0 and 5 lists there. And the metagame stuff is just all really awkward. Who do I contact to get my withdrawals back? This is not the channel. I can't tell you. Anyway, Thank you, everyone. If you want to be part of Coffee and MTG, you can be here Monday to Friday, 8 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time. Be there or be square. Thank you very much for all the super chats and everyone who's become a patron, everyone who's become a member of the channel. Fuels this channel. Make sure that to make sure that I am here every morning for Coffee and MTG. But most importantly, thank you everybody for being here. I really appreciate it. Without you guys, I have no show. Maybe today I didn't need all of you, but you know what? I wouldn't be able to do it with all of you. I don't have the spirit of the coffee crew without all of you here. So as usual, keep brewing up those coffees, and we'll keep brewing up the magic. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you